Health Junkies. On this episode of the Health Fix podcast, I'm interviewing Njideka Olatunde, and we are talking about her book, Reflexology. Today, a family affair, but we're really talking about the power of touch and how incorporating the power of touch within your family, within your relationships, and the power of this. Because when someone's angry, when someone's upset, when someone is frustrated and just not feeling good, just holding on to someone's hand, just getting a hug, those kind of things can be absolutely powerful to help change and calm someone's nervous system. And as you've heard me say over and over again, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, your nervous system is the one thing that you want to be protecting, because it stands between you and chronic pain, chronic illness, trauma stuck in the body, but also between you and your overall mental health. But not only that, your nervous system has to be on point to be able to move from perimenopause into menopause smoothly and beyond. Because when that fuel switches over from ovaries over to the adrenal glands, guess where your nervous system is getting all of its juice from? It's juice to send out messages. Your adrenal glands. So if those guys aren't healthy, nobody's healthy. So this is why it's absolutely crucial to really tune into your own superpower, and that is the power of touch and energetic connection that way. And so we're going to be talking about reflexology, but not in the way of reflexology patterns on your feet or your hands. We're going to be talking about what it can do for you and how powerful teaching your family members this simple tool can be. So let's introduce you to Njideka Olatunde. Welcome to the Health Fix podcast, where health junkies get their weekly fix of tips, tools, and techniques to have limitless energy, sharp minds, and fit physiques for life. Hey Health Junkies, I have Njeka Olatunde on the podcast today, and we are going to be talking about reflexology, and I can't wait to dive into that. So Njeka, welcome to the Health Fix podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to sharing with your listeners.
Well, we have not talked about reflexology, pretty much maybe like some blurbs, but not talking about it in depth. And I see you have a book, so we're definitely going to have to talk about that as well, because I like giving folks resources once they've heard about concepts. And a lot of people probably have heard about reflexology. Maybe we see it at spas as an offering and we're like, oh, that's cool. Or where I hail from in Washington State, we have a lot of reflexology clinics where we have Chinese folks doing some of the work. So how did reflexology come to you? How did you two meet up? What happened?
Okay. I guess probably the best way I can answer that question is, as a child, my mother used to always do back rubs, hand rubs, and foot rubs on my brother and I. And it wasn't until some years ago my brother told me that as a child, that's what kind of planted the seed for you to move into reflexology. And the essence of that happened because I grew up on home remedies. And back then, doctors used to come to your home for visits. And I saw a doctor as being a healer. So I said, okay, that's what I want to do. When I grow up, I want to be a healer. But really what actually kind of happened, I had the opportunity because I was interested in studying my ancestral connections, and I have Native American and African ancestry. And so I happened to do what was known as a vision quest as it relates to my Native American connection. And I did this vision quest, and it happened to be in Spokane, Washington. And I had to they placed you on a special spot on the mountain, and you were there by yourself. And for me, coming from Washington, D.C., a urban background, I knew nothing about the outdoors or camping or none of that. That was my first introduction. And so with that, what happened was you were placed on this spot, and you had to be about connecting with nature. And my major fear was snakes. And I said, okay, I'm out here. What am I going to do about that? But the essence of it, to bring it all together, was staying in that spot. It was about you reconnecting with yourself. And one of the things that happened while I was there, it was always butterflies that were flying around, and they kept coming around me. And after this was over with, you went back, and so the Native Americans were able to explain and translate your experience, because what you were doing, you were journaling and writing down everything. And so the butterfly represented that I was a part of the butterfly clan. So, and I've always liked butterflies, so that stated that. But they also told me that my healing was going to come from my hands, and I needed to look to my hands. And so basically, I thought that meant reflexology. I mean, I thought that meant massage therapy. But when I went to massage school, I didn't really like massage, but I fell in love with the reflexology. And from there, it evolved to what it is that I do today and have been doing for almost like 40 plus years.
Wow. It's so fascinating. I don't know too many women that don't like their feet rubbed, right? And we don't know, if our husband's doing it, our partner's doing it, maybe it's not so great, but just some touch, right? On those feet it just sends you to a different place than someone
Yes.
squeezing on those muscles on your neck and you're like, it hurts.
Exact, yes. The essence of it is, which I always tell folks, the most overused and abused parts of our body are our hands and feet. So just being able to touch your hands and touch your feet is very stimulating and very healing for the whole body from head to toe.
Absolutely. I've found, going back, I've kind of went back and forth between being more virtual and doing more acupuncture in my practice, and then back, kind of going back and forth. And
Yes.
I really found that I do like the hands-on, and I feel like people there's a little bit of a transformation. We're almost like helping the body go somewhere, or get the information it needs. I'm not saying, and this is something I know I've heard you say in other podcasts, is that, we're not necessarily the healers. We're just the guides here of sorts. And I know I'm not saying your exact words. So I would love for you to kind of bridge the gap between touching hands, touching feet. What are the messages? I'm sure people have seen the maps on the hands and feet, but I would love to hear your version of what's happening when you're touching someone's foot.
Well, I always like to share in terms of when we talk about understanding. The essence of reflexology is really focusing on how the body responds to the communication via the nerve endings and the brain connection, because the nerves are connected to the brain, which is the body's communication center. And it delivers all the messages to all the organs and systems of the body via the nerve endings. So when you are touching the hands and touching the feet, you're actually activating a communication through the nerve endings that are stimulated. So if you're feeling pain or discomfort in any area of the body, when you're actually stimulating that nerve ending point on the hands and the feet, the message goes to the brain. Something's going on and we need to respond. And in essence, when you're dealing with it from the reflexology perspective, what you're trying to do is open up the channels of improved circulation, relaxing the body, eliminating toxins or impurities. See, these are the things, because that's the message center. And I guess how I can bring it together so it can kind of be easily understood is, wherever you are feeling pain in your body, that is the outlet. That's not the cause. That's just the outlet. And what happens is, what I have done in my practice, I focus specifically on the pain-stress connection, because you don't have pain without stress, and you don't have stress without pain. And the two go hand in hand. And when I say that, what I'm talking about is, when we look at stress, stress is based on something that's happening outside of our body that we bring in when we internalize it. And so when we internalize something that's stressful, which is usually something that's negative or something that's, I call it right now, everybody's into all kinds of drama. And the drama that we're experiencing today is very stressful. And so when you internalize all of that, what happens is when it gets inside your body, it knows that it's not supposed to be there. So it's going to try to come out. And so it may pick areas. So if all of a sudden you start having back pains, it's trying to come out of your back. And because that's not a normal means for elimination, it results in pain in that area. So it's about understanding wherever we are experiencing pain, we need to try to think about what was the stress that all of a sudden contributed to me having pain. And a lot of times we don't think about that, but the two go hand in hand. And so if you're dealing with it from the standpoint of being a reflexologist, we're always looking for that stress area. And when we find that stress area, that's why we try to find that nerve ending to reflex that specific nerve ending so we can open up that channel so it can start relieving.
That makes sense. So back pain, super common. A lot of people have it, and some people go to the lengths of surgery and then still not feel better. So this is a prime example of what I see often as the energetic stress being stuck. Now, when you go on the foot, I've been trained very basically. I'll be honest, very basically in reflexology, and oftentimes we'll find pain at the arch of the foot. And a lot of people will say, yeah, my arches hurt, or they'll say my heel hurts, kind of like that plantar fasciitis thing. Can you share with folks some of the common areas that they may have pain when someone's touching their foot that connect back to the stress component and how they can kind of bring it full circle for themselves?
A lot of times that's twofold. And let me share what I mean by twofold. A lot of the pain or discomfort that you may be feeling in the foot or hands during a reflexology session, a reflexologist needs to qualify that, because all the time it's not necessarily related to a stress issue. It may be related to something going on actually in the foot or hand, or it may be related to something that's happening in that particular nerve ending that has that location on the feet and hands. So we have to kind of qualify it to really get to pinpoint exactly what the reason for the pain. So say, for example, if we use the back pain as example, and you said like in the arch area. Now in the arch area on the foot, that also is connected to the hip, the area of the hip. It's also can have a connection to areas in the internal organs where you're talking about like, the kidneys or the liver. So it's a combination of a lot of things to pinpoint, which means that I'm feeling the pain in my back, and that nerving into the foot may actually be located in that area. But because the nerve endings extend, it could be something else that's a contributor. So we have to, that's the reason why we focus on working on the whole body from head to toe, rather than, well, let me go to the liver area and try to do, because that may not be where the problem is.
Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing you're probably talking about this in your book to help guide people to kind of tease it out, but also figure out how to work with the body holistically in this type of case.
Which is really good. Thank you for asking me about that. My book is entitled Reflexology Today, A Family Affair. And I want to share why I wrote that book as a self-help guide to help you in terms of using reflexology as what I call a medication alternative to relieving pain using the power of touch. What happened when I wrote the book, and the book was wrote back in 1987, so it's now in its second edition with updates. But when I first wrote the book, I was on my way to China to study reflexology. And when I got to China, I got a confirmation for my book because I wrote the book specifically because I felt that at least one member in every household should know how to do some basic reflexology techniques as an emergency pain relief alternative. And when I got to China, what happens in China is that the doctor spends at least an hour to an hour and a half with that patient before they do any kind of treatment whatsoever. And they focus on specifically what is the pain stress connection. So that's where I got that philosophy in terms of how I do my practice. And so when they have found and connected the stress connection with the pain, then they move to the treatment part. But before they do the treatment, they bring all of the family members in, and they're looking at now, how do we create a prevention? So now we're focusing on how do we prevent this from happening to other family members, which gave me my confirmation in terms of looking at putting reflexology as a preventive measure that all the family is participating in the healing process. And that's very important. We need to understand that, like, you're with your family or with your friends and all of a sudden you're feeling bad and they want to be supportive of you. And we need to understand how that support comes through the power of touch. And the power of touch, which I always tell my clients, the first healing touch begins with listening. That's the first touch. And because you are my colleague as a naturopath, that's a part of our practice, is listening. And when you look at conventional medicine, when we look at that, that's not always the case. So which means a lot that leads up to the healing process is missed because we're not listening. And that's why I start my practice with listening, because I'm looking for that stress connection. And once I have the stress connection, now I can move into the treatment, which would be the reflexology in terms of relieving pain. And once we get the pain relieved, now we move into, because what I call the integrative approaches, because there's no one therapy that can do it all. We have 11 systems of the body that requires different things. And so once we can integrate, because say, for example, you may be in pain, but does that mean you need exercise? Does that mean you need to do body cleanse? Does that mean you need some energy work? Do you need massage, or the muscles need to be attended to? Or does that mean I need to drink more water? Do I need to have a rest period? It's a combination of things that we need to put together to bring the whole. And that's what we talked about when we say holistic healing.
Yeah, it's of course why the alternative medicine industry is a little different than the conventional medicine industry, because we're not parting out pieces. We're going, okay, how does this all work together? And with reflexology, when you look at the maps, and I think a lot of people, I'm going to bring this back up again just because I think a lot of people see these maps. They can look it up online, they can go into a massage therapist who does reflexology, or someone who does reflexology, they can see the map and they can go, oh, okay, so these different parts where we can work on all of it. So I've always been asked this, and I actually don't know how to answer it, but I feel like you've got probably a really good answer. When someone sees the whole map and someone works on your whole foot, are you working on the whole body?
Love that question. Because one of the things I want to share with everyone about those maps, those maps are what I call graphic art to help lay people connect what a reflexologist is doing on the hands and feet. Because a lot of the layout of the diagrams is not really a correct replication of our bodies, in terms of how our bodies actually laid out. And so that I can kind of help you understand, let me do this little example here. If I'm going to use my hands here, and I want to map the body on my hands. And the same thing for the hands applies for the feet, except for one particular area. Now, all of the nerve, and when you, to answer your question about are we working the whole body on the hands and feet, yes, we are. All of the nerve endings to your head are in your fingers and your toes. So that's where the head is. So if I use my hands here and I put this together, my thumb area, this is the area of the spine. This is where the spine, because what happens is if I fold my hands up like this and put my body, now this is an exact replica of the whole body when we talk about head to toe. And the reason why I'm saying that, because we have 5 fingers and 5 toes, the specific nerve endings to the head are found, because like these 2 nerve endings right here would be the eyes, and these 2 nerve endings here would be the ears. And this right here, your thumb has all 5 nerve endings in them. So this is your base point here. So when we talk about this area being the spine, then you come here, this is your shoulder. So you guys are coming down spine, from the head, shoulder. Right here, from here to here, this is your arm, hands, and feet. Move back, this is your hip, legs, and feet. Then all in here is all of the internal organs in terms of where you work. This is where you find these nerve endings. So inside your hand, you have 2,500 nerve endings, and in your feet, you have 7,200 nerve endings that connect to all the parts of the body. And so that's how you do it. And so what I tell people, what you see on those charts, that's to give you the picture of what your nerve endings actually look like that we are working on the hands and feet. And so even though you may not know where that particular nerve ending is to the back or the nerve ending is to the kidney, what the essence is, being able to reflex the palm of your hands to activate the nerve endings, to send the message to the brain, bring relief to the area that's in stress or pain. And then you have with the reflexologist who knows how to back it up with the specific nerve ending. But that's how you can do it as a jump start in relieving pain and stress.
Great explanation. Great explanation. And I'm glad that you're in agreement with me that it treats the whole body, because I think a lot of people look at it and go, I'm going to press this one spot because that's what I want to work on. And I try to explain, no, let's do the whole thing. Now, another thing that a lot of folks will ask me is, can I do this myself, or do I need somebody else to do it for me?
That's also another twofold question, and I'm going to tell you why. Yes, you can do reflexology on yourself. I say specifically on your hands. I don't advocate you doing it on your feet yourself because of how you have to position your body. You have to bring your foot up on your thigh and that presents problems for the lower back and the spine because of. So to do your feet, it would be good to have somebody else do that on your feet. And that's where we talk about bringing the family members in. Family members, and I'm going to share this with everyone. If you have a young person in your family and you show them how to do some basic reflexology techniques, you now have your own personal reflexologist 24/7 in your household. Children love it. And I teach young people between the ages of 10 to 18 how to do reflexology because of the mere fact that it's also good for them as it is for you. And so that's how you can have what you can put together, which is I have in my book, where we have family healing night. Just getting a little circle on the floor and everybody takes one person's foot and take the other person's foot and you start doing reflexology on each other's feet and hands. Now what have we done? We have a communication going on with our feet and hands connecting one to each other.
That sounds amazing. And I think for a lot of people, it is good connecting time with the family. And I heard in a previous podcast that you had worked as a social worker for some time.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking, in the scheme of things, I can imagine you're writing this also thinking about connecting the families better, just in general, because let's face it, if there's family strife, we tend to internalize that. If there's family drama, as you mentioned before, it's also a way to like connect the relationships within the family here.
Basically, this is one of my passions right now is as I get older is I'm fascinated with young people. And right now, young people are under tremendous stress. And we, as we've gotten older, we've learned how to do certain techniques that we can relieve stress. But we're not passing that on to our young people so that they know that they have other resources that they can use when they start feeling stressed out. And that's why I'm a big advocate of reflexology and putting it back into the family. Because let me share this with you. Everybody listening right now has experienced reflexology and they don't know that they have. And if you can go back to your childhood or even remember as a parent dealing with your child, your first experience with reflexology was this little piggy. And when you remember this little piggy and your parent was turning your toes or you're moving the toes backward and forward, what you were doing were stimulating and activating the nerve endings in your head. And what would that do? The baby would start relaxing or the baby would start giggling or whatever. It was bringing a calmness and a soothing. So that was your first introduction to reflexology. And the same thing that applied then applies today and works very well. And so we need to get back, even if it's taking a child. Because let me share this one thing. This is from a social service perspective. Children today are touch deprived and they are afraid of you touching them. They don't like to be touched because we have stopped touching them. And I'm saying from a positive way, because touch now has negative connotations to it. But touch humans is something we all need. And when you are deprived of touch, that creates stress, that creates discomfort, and that creates a lot of the health problems that we are facing today.
I wholeheartedly agree. In a lot of labs we do on urine testing for hormones, we have a test that's for oxytocin. And I would say 90% of people have low levels.
Yes.
Oxytocin. And it's sad. I'm like, oh, wow, just a little touch therapy and we can boost that up a little bit.
It would make a big difference. And this is my unscientific study that relates to, when we were on, 2.5 years of lockdown and going through the COVID. And one of the things that happened, the one major thing that happened during the COVID was disconnecting from touch. And a lot of people, in my opinion, made transition a lot sooner than that may have been intended to, was because of lack of touch. I couldn't see my family members. I couldn't touch my family members. I couldn't really actually talk to my family. These are all touch points. And these touch points escalated, whatever illness was going on just because I could not connect. And then when we came off of the pain, all of a sudden now we're scared to be about touching. We're scared to connect. And that goes with the studies that you're coming up with is because why we're so low, because we don't believe in touching each other anymore. And the other thing is we've got so much anger. I mean, we are dealing with, and anger is a real health disruptor inside the body. That's something you don't want to have inside of you is anger. And if we are constantly angry, we block the healing process.
Wholeheartedly. I know from personal experience with a little bit of anger and certain personal things I've experienced myself. And, Chinese wise, of course, it blocks circulation. And I'm guessing you've seen this in a lot of different clients. Can you give an example of working with someone on anger? Because I think a lot of people imagine like we're screaming and letting things out. How do we work on touch with anger? How do we,
Little basic thing I call, and I teach this with my young people, I call it the reflexology handshake. And I show them how they can do the reflexology handshake. Whenever you start getting stressed out, go grab somebody's hand and do the reflexology, and all of a sudden they'll calm down. And it's very basic because what? The power of the touch, hand to hand, energy exchange calms you down. Because you can't be in anger and you can't be in a state of being angry and being calm at the same time. Something's going to give, and the calm is going to win over on the anger, because the calm is based on energy connection, touch to touch. Anger is internal. It's a force that's coming out of one entity, whereas when you're dealing with energy, that's an exchange, a give, receive, give, receive. And that's the difference. And so, even if you don't know how to do the reflexology handshake, just go grab somebody's hand when they start, bouncing off the walls. Just grab it. Calm down, calm down. You all right? And that changes everything.
I wouldn't have thought about that. I wouldn't have thought about that. That's definitely something I think incredibly valuable for us to think about. That I find that as we get older and we go through perimenopause and into menopause and our hormones are shifting, sometimes we'll be like, don't touch me. I don't want anybody to touch me. I don't want my husband, partner, etc. near me. I don't want any of that. But really, it seems like we actually do want that, but we get that feeling where we don't. What have you seen in terms of maybe going through your own experience or what you've seen with clients in this perimenopause, menopause stage of life?
One of the things we have to understand is when that's happening, remember now, that's your body cleansing itself. And so we need to start looking at that in terms of, are we cleansing our whole body mentally, physically, and emotionally as well? Because when you're having, I got the hot flashes, I got, I'm just all balled up and stuff like that. What's going on inside? You gotta internalize, focus on it's not outside, it's what's going on inside. And we don't like to spend the time to look at what's happening with us internally, because the body, trust me listeners, the body is designed to heal itself. And whatever you're going through, it's for a reason, to help you assist your body in the healing process. And the example I use with my clients is, you have to look at your body two ways. Is your body a warehouse or is it a temple? If it's a temple, that means it's sacred. Valuable things are going to go in it. If it's a warehouse, I just store stuff. I just put stuff in. I may go back in and check it out. I may not. But that's the way you have to start seeing your insides. Is it sacred or is it a storage shed? And once you understand that, it helps you in terms of how you can assist your body in having optimum health and wellness, no matter what's going on.
The storage shed, that is such a good, I would say maybe metaphor, maybe more of like a visual compared to a temple. I think so many women can relate to that. I think men too, just in terms of life and what we experience. But yeah, touch, just, it always does feel better in the end. And I think for a lot of people, we're craving, and I think maybe that's why I've been drawn to go back to in person with my clients, because I missed that connection too. Now, with all of this, are you still practicing? What's going on for you right now? What's happening in your world?
Oh, wow. There's a lot on my plate right now. Basically, what I'm really focusing on more so now than anything is which I will share this with you. We have a reflexology research project that conventional medicine is looking at as it relates to strokes, as it relates to diabetes, as it relates to hypertension and PTSD. And this study is being sought after worldwide right now, and it was put together by one of my mentors and dear colleagues. And so one of the things that I'm working on because of that is focusing really on relieving pain first before treatment. And that's what I'm doing, which will allow me to work with other practitioners when we start talking about integrative approaches to overall health and wellness. So that's basically, what I'm doing. I'm also working on another project in terms of the international connection of reflexologists, us connecting worldwide and exchanging what we're doing so that we can have a comprehensive approach in terms of the cultural connection in our healing process. Because one of the things I always share with my clients, if you have any older people in your family, go back to them and start talking to them and asking them questions about what were some of the healing practices that you use. And trust me, you're going to find that that's your cultural connection to healing yourself, because we're all culturally connected to our healing process. And those things that worked yesterday will still work today because it's in you. So that's like, some of the things. And my practice now is virtual. And the reason it's virtual because I'm focusing now on families and teaching families how to use reflexology in relieving pain mentally, physically, and emotionally. So that's where I put on my social work hat and combining it with my naturopathic training, because pain is not just physical. Pain is also mental, emotional, and spiritual right now. And we've got to understand that it's going to be the power of touch that will give us the healing that's needed to relieving this pain. And for those, and this is the other thing, if you are seeing your practitioner, you have to understand that your practitioner is assisting you in the body process, but you also must assist the practitioner, because it's a two-way street. It is a give, it's a receive and give. And once you understand that, you will then have a total win-win in your healing process that your practitioner can support you in, and you can support your practitioner in administering to you.
That is definitely something. It took me a little while to learn that. And it's so important to see that you have what's inside of you to heal. We're just guiding here and just really knowing how to help convey that, but also help, like you said, creating that give and take relationship where you're troubleshooting together, if you will.
And the way I help my clients understand that is like this. The automobile, I always use the example of the automobile, because the automobile is an exact diagram of the body. It operates exactly the same. The layout is the same. And so when you go buy a car and your salesperson say, in X number of months, to take it back for maintenance and you got to do all this, or your car is having a problem and the engine light comes on, or you hear some little clanking, you go take it to the mechanic and you tell the mechanic exactly what the problem is. Because it's mechanical, the mechanic would know exactly what it needs to do to solve the problem. But guess what? You can't take your body to the doctor like you do your automobile and say, "Doctor, my back is hurting. Doctor, I got chest pain." Because the doctor can't operate like that. Because what is the doctor going to do? The first thing the doctor's going to say is, we have to do some tests. And once we do the tests, then we can see what it is we need to do. But in the meantime, here's a prescription for your pain. Now, the doctor doesn't know what's causing the pain, but just giving you something to relieve the pain. What you have to understand is you've got to be able to talk to your doctor and explain what the pain is. Then you have a sense of communication going on that can lead to resolving. You have to be involved in the process. You can't just give your body to your practitioner and say, what can you do to solve this problem? You have to be working together. So understand that your body does not operate like when you take your car to the mechanic. Your body can only operate when you and your practitioner are in oneness with each other to get the result that's needed.
Makes sense. It makes sense. I think my next question, I'd love to hear your opinion on it, because in my practice, I see a lot of people who have what we call mystery illness. There isn't, they've got multiple tests, they've been to different specialists. Everyone said, you're fine, we can't find anything wrong with you. Obviously, I tend to look a little more on the, okay, we're dealing with energetics here. When all the common things have been ruled out, how do you work with folks to really kind of go, okay, this pain, like you said, is we've kind of learned, it can be emotional, it can be spiritual, it could be trauma stuck in the body, it could be all these things. How, could we explain to the listeners right now who are still on the fence of understanding that even neurological kind of things that are going on, tics, neurological tics, different types of numbness, etc., can be spiritual? How do you get to talking through that with folks?
Here we go again. Remember I told you about pain-stress connection. Well, there's another thing that's connected with the pain-stress connection. It's called mind, body, and spirit connection. That is also plays a part. Where's your mind? Where's your body? And where's your spirit in this whole pain-stress connection? We have to understand that. And so if we look at it from the standpoint of talking about it, get it out of your system. Talk about it. When you're with your practitioner, start talking about what's going on, because that's connected with the stress. And when you talk about it, now you're opening up to release. So is it emotional? Is it physical? Is it mental? Because see, when you talk mental, you're also talking emotional, because the mind and the emotions are connected in oneness as it relates. So say for example, okay, let's look at the example of you lost your job. All of a sudden you go to work today and then your supervisor says, okay, your department's being cut out, like we no longer will be utilizing your services. So what are you going to do? That's going to be what? An emotional setback. So, you're going to start having all kinds of emotions with it. And the major emotion you're going to have can be one of two things. What is that going to be? The economics. I don't have a job, so now how am I going to financially take care of myself? So that creates a problem. And the other thing is, on my job, I had health benefits. Now I don't have health coverage. So what if I get sick? What's happening there is now we're looking at the mind. What is it doing? Planning all of the possibilities of things that can happen. And what are you going to start doing? Internalizing all of that. Now you can do one of two things. You can do what? Bring up the anger, get angry about it, or you can withdraw and go in. But in the process of all of that going on, that's the mind, body, and emotion connection plus the pain, stress connection. Now you have what's called overwhelmed. And what are you going to, the best thing that you can do about that is first take a deep breath and then talk about it. Get it out your system. No matter how you feeling about it. Even if it's angry, if it's negative or whatever. Get it out. Let it go. Get it out your system. Talk about it. Release it. Then we can start looking at what are the processes that we need to put in place so that I can maintain sound mind, body, and spirit as I go through this particular, as what I call a life lesson. Every day we wake up, we're given a life lesson because that's all it is. It's something you've got to learn from that. And that's how it happens. All of the stuff that's going on, what our eyes see and how we internalize it, is not necessarily what it really is. It's something for you to learn from it.
so incredible how our journeys end up being learning lessons, right? It's just impressive. And people are talking about that, folks like you are talking about that, because so many of us for so long we're stuck in the conventional space of thinking it's got to be something wrong. There's got to be something wrong with my nerve. There's got to be something wrong with my bone. There's got to be something wrong with my disc. Something of that nature, especially in the case of speaking with pain. So, gosh, let's, on that, we can't even top that. On that, we got to tell folks exactly where they can find you. We got to talk about your book again and remind them about Reflexology Today, a Family Affair. Let's guide them to where they can interact with you, maybe help support the research, however we can support you.
Well, the first thing before I share about connecting with me, I want to tell you about an African proverb and an African culture. When you come to someone's home for the first time, you bring a gift. And I have a gift for you and your listeners. And that gift is medication-free pain and stress relief poster. And all you have to do is go to Reflexology.com to download my gift to you and your listeners for spending this time listening to me. To reach me, my website is focusonhealing.com, and I encourage you, go to my copy. So that's a podcast called the Touchology Wellness Experience, and I invite guests all the time to share their modalities in terms of relieving pain and stress without medication. And so that's another thing, is the touchologywellnessexperience.com. And thank you for allowing me to share, my dear.
My gosh, my pleasure. And Njideka, it's just great to hear all of your experience and really help folks to understand that there's more to medicine than we have kind of been taught over the years. We have it all inside of us. Thanks again for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I shared the closing, my last closing statement to everyone. These are my closing words. Understand that it is the power of touch that heals all.
Absolutely. Hey, fellow health junkie. Thanks for listening to the Health Fix podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please help support me to get the word out about the podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review, and just get that word out. Thanks again for listening.